Next to a peaceful river in the wilderness is a cute baby fox who soaks in the view. However, she runs through the forest and thinks it's weird that the forest never seems to end, regardless of how long she's running. The forest seems to be a fascinating place as the baby fox keeps jumping from one place to another. But then we learn something interesting. This cute little fox was actually a beautiful princess at one time. Her name is revealed to be Enel, and she is shown to have silky blonde hair. A flashback shows us that Enel was the princess of the Rocham Empire, and she had managed to gain her dad's favor despite being far off from the line of succession to the throne. The blonde princess seemed to have a great relationship with the king, who would even wish for her to have been a man. This was only because it would have been easier for him to choose Enel as the next king of the empire. Enel's sweetness knew no bounds, and she didn't even want the throne because it was an accepted fact that her brother Agris would be the next ruler. We see a wholesome moment where Enel goes to hug Agris after he picks up her fallen toy, and all seems to be well in the royal family. The blonde princess was happy to be with a loving family that cared for her and gave her happiness. However, things took a very dark turn, and we are shown the horrid memory that changed Enel forever. Agris ended up killing their own father out of greed for the throne, and he showed no remorse in stabbing the king even as Enel pleaded him to stop. The blonde princess was devastated to see what her brother was capable of. But this wasn't the end of his madness. As a matter of fact, Agris also decided to end his sister's life so that their father would not be lonely in heaven. We now witness an emotionally tragic scene where Agris swipes his sword at Enel and seemingly kills her. But she musters up whatever strength she has left and crawls towards him, hoping to appeal to the kind brother she once knew and loved. Unfortunately, her desperate attempts are of no use as Agris simply scoffs at her and then she drops dead. Now, the blonde princess passes into the afterlife, but she doesn't like what she sees. It appears as if she's surrounded by a barrier, so she presses her hand against it. However, the barrier starts to crack, much to Enel's confusion. It doesn't take long for us to realize that this barrier is actually an eggshell, and it breaks open to reveal a man and a woman happily greeting Enel into this world. This is a bit too confusing for our hero. But then the couple, revealed to be her new parents, state that they are currently in their human forms. Enel has no idea what's happening. But then her dad transforms into a magnificent fox god and flexes his majestic appearance. Enel starts to realize that her body is no longer human, but rather feels like a cute fox. She is visibly alarmed and lets out a tiny cry. But her mom assumes it's because of her dad turning into a fox. She explains to the fox god that he shouldn't have been so sudden with this transformation, so he reverts back to his human form. However, he looks even more handsome now, and the confusion continues to pile up on our hero. She remembers that she was just killed in a brutal sequence. But now she's been reincarnated into a divine beast, which is basically a fox god. Okay, before we continue, I want to shout out Lofi Boon's amazing new album, Chill-Fi. It's got some sick beats which are great for studying and relaxing, and are also perfect if you need background music while you're doing your daily chores. It's personally some of the best Lofi music I've ever heard, and I listen to it all the time. You can check out Chill-Fi using the link in the description. Thank me later. Okay, now, back to the story. We move back to the royal palace where the commander, named Lord Abelard, is a bit perturbed by the way people are behaving. That's when he learns about the king's unexpected passing, but is shocked to hear the rumors about Enel being the culprit. This is a bitter pill to swallow, and Abelard thinks back to a memory of the blonde princess while he was guarding her. She had asked him about his future plans because she believed him to be an incredible man. Enel even sang praises upon the commander, and her sweet smile made him blush despite his stern appearance. This is exactly why Abelard is finding it hard to believe the rumors about Enel killing her own father. Now, we move back to the fantasy forest where Enel's fox dad looks for his tiny tot. He peeps through some bushes and finds the fox girl, who is still a little baby. He picks her up and cuddles with her for a bit before saying it's time to go meet Mama Fox. Now, Enel decides to give us a brief explanation so that we're updated on her progress. It's been a month since she became a fox girl, and her new dad's name is revealed to be Lanor. She goes on to explain that it was hard for her to come to terms with this new reality, and even tried to convince herself that this was all a dream. However, as a month passed by, she had no other choice but to accept that this is her life. As expected, the blonde princess is visibly upset over being reincarnated into a divine beast. A narrative text takes up the screen to explain how the shattered fragments of God gave way to the creation of divine beasts in the continent. Lions were made from gold, and foxes were made from silver, hinting that they are at the top of a chain involving beasts such as whales, wolves, hawks, and snakes. It turns out that these divine beasts are here to take care of nature's spirits and carry out God's work by maintaining the continent's core elements: the sky, the ground, the sea, and the rivers. One unfortunate day, tragedy struck the continent, and the divine beasts had to gather all their strength to pull off a successful defense. This led them to disappear from sight, probably because the incident was too much for them to handle. They would go on to live inside the divine beast forest, which is the same forest where Enel is currently living. The blonde princess breaks the fourth wall and comments on the change of scenery. This is because her dad is very fast, and Enel acts a little grumpy. She further explains that her fox parents might allow her to roam around freely, but are protective of their little baby and use their powers to find her whenever she tries to hide. Enel tells us that her egg was actually half the size of a standard beast egg, and it even took her 10 years to break out of it, which explains why her parents are so protective. We learn that the divine beasts actually lost a lot of their powers after the tragic incident that shook the continent, but are still able to do basic things, such as shifting to their human forms. The divine beasts can also use sword skills or magic if they are blessed with these talents. Unfortunately for our hero, she hasn't been able to shift to her human form yet and can't even speak. She wonders if this is because of her previous life being that of a human, and sulks in front of us with her foxy eyes. Enel remembers what Agris did to her and the king, but is confused as to why he would have to kill both his dad and his sister. The imperial law stated that a princess could never become the ruler of an empire, so it didn't make sense for Agris to attack Enel. This is a very relevant question, but our hero takes a look at her little paw and laments that she'll never be able to meet him again. Lanor notices his fox baby feeling upset, so he gives her some love and asks her if she's mad at him for stopping her apparent conquest of the north. It turns out that Enel's new name as a fox girl is Lusha, and her dad continues to console her, but she cannot explain why she's feeling upset. Now, Lanor and Enel reach a secret cave and are granted access by Enel's fox mama, whose name is revealed to be Syria. Lanor happily greets his wife, but she acts very formally in the way she speaks to him. The fox dad turns into a fox daddy as he hugs Syria with love, and it makes Enel feel awkward because she's never been around such a loving couple. Syria asks Lanor to check out a letter, but maintains a formal tone, so he asks her not to be this way because they have a child now. However, Syria states that it's difficult for her to switch her mode of communication, despite Lanor telling her she's making him sound like her superior. Now, the fox daddy reads the letter and is surprised to see what went down recently. He tells Syria that the king of Rocham has been assassinated, leading to a change of rulers. Enel is quick to hear this, but it only gets worse for her when Lanor reads out that she is believed to be the culprit and even killed herself after the gruesome act. It breaks the fox girl's heart to hear this, but she finally has some answers now. Agris needed to justify such an abrupt ascension to the throne, so he ended up using his own sister's death as a cover for the shameful act he had committed. After realizing that she has been framed to hide the truth, Enel begins crying, but cannot speak, so she lets out some weird fox noises. Syria is confused to see her fox baby behave this way, so she tries to console her. Our hero continues to cry us a river, and her parents do their best to calm her down, using fruits as their main weapon. It doesn't seem to do much for the fox girl, and Lanor figures she's not hurt or hungry, so she might end up getting exhausted from all the crying. Syria continues to refer to Enel as Lusha, and then she gives her fox baby a warm hug, hoping it will do the trick. Our hero is still upset over what has happened because her brother has dealt her an unfair hand. She is determined to expose the truth, but eventually calms down because Lanor and Syria give her an overdose of love. Enel goes to sleep and wakes up in the middle of the night in between her parents. She stretches her fox muscles and wants to hop out of bed because she has a new mission now. Enel has to find the royal palace and somehow reveal the dirty truth behind Agris and his claim to the throne. Enel needs to do this as soon as possible because people will eventually forget about the whole thing after some time passes by. Unfortunately, she knows that she won't be able to leave the forest of the divine beasts just yet, and she can't even talk. It gives Enel much to ponder upon, so she decides to try speaking practice. She starts off on an optimistic note, but is hit with reality soon after, and acknowledges the predicament she's in. Lanor and Syria wake up and are relieved to see their fox baby in a better mood. They decide to give her some tasty fruits, and our hero happily eats them. She acts cute and bubbly. But then Lanor tells Syria that he is going to make a trip to the human world. This alerts Enel, who wants to know more, so she pays close attention. Lanor mentions a man named Vermin who will invade the forest of the divine beasts if he delays his trip any further. This also gives the fox daddy a chance to meet the new royal family, and he also tells us that the silver fox is believed to be the guardian of the kingdom. Syria believes that the empire must be in a mess right now with the king and the princess went, but Enel sees this as a golden opportunity. She hops out of her mommy's lap and hugs Lanor's leg, refusing to let go. This makes the fox daddy's heart melt, but the fox girl simply wants to travel to the human world so that she can listen to all the rumors surrounding recent incident. Lanor asks Enel if she wants to go with him, and she gives him her cute foxy eyes, hoping to manipulate him. However, Syria isn't too keen on this and firmly says no. The fox mommy reasons that the human world is dangerous and it doesn't make sense for her tiny tot to go there without any preparation. She says that it would be better if Enel went with her later with sufficient training, but this is bad news for the fox girl who hilariously panics upon hearing her words. Lanor is willing to listen to his redhead wife, but then Enel pulls out one of her secret moves. She pulls out her teary eyes and looks at her fox daddy with innocence, which makes him feel guilty. Lanor tries to reason with Syria and says that he will keep Enel by his side the entire time, but the fox mommy counters by saying Enel hasn't even had her birth ceremony yet. The fox daddy tries to establish dominance by calling out the birth ceremony as a scam for other divine beasts to ogle at their fox baby. Enel rushes to Lanor and gives him a hug, after which he cuddles up next to Syria and reassures her that their tiny tot will be safe by his side. He uses his irresistible charm and dashing smolder to get Syria to agree to him, and promises that he will not betray her trust. The intense session leaves the fox mommy a little lightheaded, and then Lanor asks Enel what she would like to see in the human world. Now, the fox daddy and our hero step out of the forest, but we can see Enel has been wrapped up inside a cloth because Syria made sure to send her baby away with full preparations. Lanor has to explain some rules to Enel, and he begins by saying divine beasts need to observe 3 taboos while they're in the human world. The first is that they cannot intervene too much in human history. The second is that humans cannot know that they are divine beasts. And the third is that they cannot fall in love with a human. If anyone fails to obey these 3 taboos, then they will be dragged away and sealed in the forest of the divine beasts forever. Lenore finds these taboos to be silly but has to follow the rules, so he asks Enel to be careful as they venture into the human world. Now, the fox daddy shows our hero their home in the human world, and she is amazed to see how beautiful the mansion is. However, she also notices a flag and seems to recognize where it's from. Enel seems to worry as the gates are lowered and an army of guards presents themselves in front of her fox daddy. That's when we learn of Lanor's identity in the human world. He is the Grand Duke who is welcomed back into his castle. And then Enel tells us that he was mysteriously famous for never attending any fancy parties, even when the king would invite him as a personal request. There were very few people who actually knew what Lanor was like, and his identity as a divine beast starts to make sense. It turns out that Lanor is highly respected in the kingdom because he is believed to be the master of the Ice Wall of the North. On top of that, his sword skills are supposed to transcend human limitations, which makes him an ultimate warrior. Enel further narrates that it was Lanor who had stopped the barbarians from overcoming the northern mountains and saved the kingdom by defeating them with his might. There are also rumors floating around which painted the fox daddy to be a brutal murderer who simply enjoyed the sight of blood and carnage around him. Some thought of him as an old creep, while others believed him to be the most handsome man on the continent. However, nobody actually knows the truth about Lanor due to his secretive nature, and this is why he is always shrouded in mystery. Now, Lanor and Enel enter the palace and are greeted by a butler named Eden who extends a brief welcome, but also presents the Duke with a ton of paperwork that has piled up during his absence. Lanor wants to host a grand party to celebrate his return, but Eden tells him there's no time for such frivolities as there is a lot that needs to be done. The fox daddy asks his butler if anything significant had happened while he was away, and is told that the barbarians have managed to climb over the ice wall. This distracts Enel, who is playfully toying around with the giant piles of paper. Lanor gets ready to give the barbarians a piece of his mind, but then he shifts his attention to his fox baby and asks her if she would like to join in on the fun. He reassures her that he will be back soon, and then he puts Enel on his bed to have a chat with her. Lanor acknowledges that this must have been a lot for Enel to take in, and she also admits to being surprised by the Duke's sudden change of mood. After all, she has only seen his loving and playful side at home, and not this bloodthirsty face that craves violence. However, none of this matters to our hero, because it doesn't change the fact that Lanor is her fox daddy. She snuggles up to him and shows some love, which makes him feel enlightened. Lanor is upset because he cannot brag about Enel to anyone over here, but life must go on, so he asks her to take a little nap till he comes back from work. Enel happily raises her little paw and says goodbye to Lanor, but comments on how stressful this day has been right after he leaves. She's about to get cozy for a nap, but then a magical blast of energy occupies the room, and a rune-hilt wizard shows up. Enel has no idea what he's doing here, and even the wizard is shocked to see the fox girl. A hilarious confrontation follows, as the wizard grabs Enel by her tail and asks her what she's doing here. This makes our hero very cranky, but she needs to come up with a quick response. How is she going to get out of this mess? Like, share, and subscribe to find out in the next video. See you soon.